Hello everybody, welcome back to WebDesign TV. This is your host, Nirjar Deb, and here's our co-host, Javascript Strongman. Today's episode is on Website 3, otherwise known as the Javascript project. It is made up of three coding languages, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. First and foremost, the project requirements. In order to allow one to read code easily, it must have indenting in white space to make it look clear. Indenting lets the reader know where certain lines of code are nested. For example, in the first selector, the margin and padding customizations are nested, or under the HTML, body selector. White space is usually used between each syntax of code and helps the reader mentally separate chunks of code in order to help them understand the code better. I used comment markers, as highlighted by the red circles, to make comments in my code denote the different parts so that someone who does not understand the coding language could then understand it. An opening comment marker has a slash and then an asterisk, and a closing comment marker is the opposite, that is, an asterisk and then a slash. Oh yeah! I have carefully read and followed all the instructions and quality aspect requirements in the rubric. A relative path means that the code will look for a particular file by following a path of files within the computer only. That is why I put my images in a folder called pics within my .zip website code file, so that when someone downloads the code, they will be able to see all the pictures. The pink circle on the slide shows how I correctly used a relative path to an image for my website advertisement. I zipped my website code in one file called Nirjar Website 3 to take up less space when someone downloads it. This helps it to compress the files inside. In order for the website to function, one would have to unzip the files by extracting them to a user-specified location. The div tags help split up the code into different sections. Then I applied classes to each div block so that CSS code would know which set of HTML elements it must affect. As shown here, I used the header opening and closing tags correctly to make different sized headers. As displayed in the sample, I used the image tag to help display an image. Also, an image tag is self-closing, so it does not need an extra closing tag. Let's take a short break, everyone. Here is an advertisement from our sponsor, W3 Schools, deemed as the home of code. The moment you stepped into his website, you'll be able to learn tons of coding languages, all for free. I have used opening and closing anchor tags correctly to help contain links to other pages or websites. I used alt text correctly for all my images. Alt text is used to tell visually impaired people what the image is by speaking it out loud. Also, when the image is unable to show up, the alt text is displayed. I use title text correctly for all my images. Title text is a little note that appears when a user hovers over an image. It can help clarify what the image is for. An HTML document must have the basic layout tags shown in the slide. I use these tags accurately to set up the layout of my site. Doctype HTML tells the browser that the code will be written HTML5, the current HTML language. HTML lang equal EN is the language attribute that declares English as the default language in the page, and is where the HTML document officially begins. Head element tells the browser information about the web page that will not be shown to the user. The head element is closed by the /head tag. The body tag is where the displayable content starts, and the /body closing tag is where the content ends. The /HTML tag is where the HTML code ends. I have appropriately used a lot of elements of JavaScript, such as variables, write methods, if-else statements, and loops. I used variables in a lot of the challenges, mostly to store user-prompted information. I used the document.write method in every challenge except challenge 1 to display the output of a challenge. I coded the complex if-else statement in challenge 8, the age calculator, to make the system calculate whether the birthday has passed or not. I used a loop for the last challenge, since I needed to prompt a set of questions 4 times in a row. I have multiple pages on my site, but they all have the template as shown on the slide, with only the page title and challenge being different. As shown here, challenge 1 says Hello World and an alert box. The other challenges, like challenge 2 on the right, show the results in the iframe. I controlled all my positioning and styling with CSS code written in an external style sheet. As shown here, I have used red arrows to demonstrate how I used a div block layout. As shown here, I have used 3 different header sizes, h1, h2, and h3, for making page titles and subheaders. As shown here, I have used 2 images per page. As displayed on the slide, I used hyperlinks and anchor text to make a world-class drop-down menu that leads to all 10 challenges. The code for this cutting-edge creation is on the right, and the drop-down menu it generated is the blue rectangle on the left. The 2 quality aspects I want to talk about is minimum of 2 images per page and the JavaScript elements. Before I begin, please take note that the JavaScript elements include variables, if-else statements, write methods, and loops. The first quality aspect required me to put in images. I decided to make my performance accuracy high by using images that had the rights to use. In other words, I made my own images, which helped me get accurate sizing and opacity so that I looked wonderful with the website background colors. That's how I improved my performance accuracy with my images. The second quality aspect had a tendency to drive me up the wall sometimes. Ha ha ha! Okay, that's enough JavaScript strongman. Please, let me talk. Anyways, I had to be highly accurate with the JavaScript elements, especially the if-else statements. For challenge 8, otherwise known as the age calculator, I'd written quite a long if-else statement. When I tried to execute it, it didn't work. Then I analyzed the code, and I realized that I forgot to use semicolons. Once I put those in, it worked. This taught me that having an eye for precision is of utmost importance. Now, our episode has not fully finished yet. Please, my lovely audience, gear up and get ready to see the actual website and its 10 challenges function properly.